What's going on, guys? Hope you are having a great day out there today. So today's video is going to be a little bit of maintenance and a little bit of stuff on how I do things. You can take this with a grain of salt. You can do things the way you want to. Obviously, everybody's got their own way. But what I wanted to kind of go over was a few things. The first thing we're going to go over is shock droop. This was one of the most important things I learned quickly on with as soon as I bought my first Success car. I kept having issues with constantly snapping off the bottom of the shock eyelets. Probably broke, 2 or 3 sets of these before I was informed on what was causing that, and that is your shock droop. So I'm going to show you here what the shock droop is, how to adjust it, and how I do it, and also the added parts that I've added to it. These have been a huge saver too. Besides setting the shock droop, you definitely want to get yourself a set of these. I know there's some other brands out there who make the heavier duty versions of these, but this is the ones I've been using on mine, and I haven't broken a single one of these since installing these and setting the droop. So we'll go over that here and I'll show you, so stay tuned, guys. All right, guys, so what you want to do in setting the droop on these things and how I set them. Anyway, down in here you have your 2mm screw. And what you want to do is you need a longer one. You can kind of get it with a normal one also, but it'd be difficult. Anyway, so right now, if I pull the shock off of here, you can see now it has fallen, pretty much most of the way down. And what is happening there is whenever that is coming the whole way down right now, it is putting all the stress on that shock. So what you want to do is crank this up to where it is now on the high side of that, so that you're actually pushing the A-arm down slightly with the shock, and it puts pressure upwards. So that way, when this is bottoming out the whole way, or extending the whole way, you are putting the stress on that screw and down there on the frame on that little set screw, so that it's not yanking down on the shock. I hope I'm explaining this right. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask me. But what you want to do is basically have the shock eyelet kind of very easily floating on and off of there, if not slightly to where you have to pull up to get it on there, because you want to relieve all that tension off the shock so that when it comes down the whole way, it's not yanking on it. Alright, so right now it is set to where basically I got to kind of just slightly pull down on the shock in order to slide it on there. You could go a tiny bit more. You don't want to put too much stress on either end of it. You got to kind of get that fine balance, it seems. But this is where I have been setting mine, and I haven't broke a single one of the shock eyelets now since doing this to all of my shocks. I've done it on the Creighton V4 and the new EXB, and I haven't broken a single one of them. The EXB already came with the heavier shock eyelets, but the Creighton V4, I did put the heavier shock eyelets on this one, and I haven't broken any of them on any of it yet. So definitely is a big thing and a good thing to change and adjust, because it'll save you a lot of headaches and not cut your run time too short. So guys, that is pretty much it for the droop. And go ahead and you do it to all 4 ears. Your front have this little set screw down in there also. Probably can't see it through the light. But you have the droop screw sets on the front and the rears. So get there and get those adjusted up to where you're just having to slightly push down on that shock to slide it on there. And that way all the tension's on those set screws. But the other couple things I've done to all of my cars and has helped out a lot, and not dealing with seized up wheels and motor bearings and everything else, have been sealed bearings. These ones are Jim's bearings. I also use the Fast Eddie ones. I kind of bounce back and forth between the two of them, but I've had really good luck with these bearings and haven't had really any of them fail yet. I beat on the cars pretty decently and take them into mud and water and a little bit everywhere, as you guys see. But these are definitely some great wheel bearings. This is a whole new set of bearings I'm going to put in this Outcast here shortly. This was the first one I had upgraded, but I ordered a set, figured I'd pull them out, check them over, see how they go, and throw a new fresh set in there. But also, what we're going to go over here, and this might be boring to some people, but I just figured I'm down here messing around the shop today, so I would show you guys, is how I wash these things. In the past, I was never really big on washing the cars, and would just pretty much let the mud fly off them on the next run. But what I have been doing lately is using either Simple Green or this stuff here called, Purple Power. I'll go over it. I'll go through. I got to clean the Outcast, not the Outcast, but the Creighton V4 and the EXB up after the BMX track yesterday. Wasn't too muddy, but there was a lot of fine dirt and grit out there, so I want to get that stuff out of the wheels and get it all cleaned up. So we'll pull that out next, guys. And another small note on soft pack batteries. As you guys know, you start beating these around, the outside shell falls apart really fast. So what I have been doing with the batteries as soon as I get them is giving them about 2 or 3 wraps on the outside with Gorilla Tape. And so far this stuff has been holding up really well, as you can see. I mean, this pack has had the snot beat out of it and dirty, but still holding together really nicely. So not a bad idea to wrap them up. That way we've got a little extra protection in there for those lipos. Well, guys, we got the hose here. We're going to go ahead and blast all the initial dirt off this thing. Try not to hit too much into all the electronics immediately. I mean, they are waterproof to a certain extent. I've never had any issues with going mine in the water and the mud and cricks and stuff like that, but I know they can be damaged, so just try not to blast them directly in there. But the only thing that's on top of the ESC is your fan up there, which you blow that afterwards. But all I do is hose everything down real good. Get all the initial dirt and grime off the top of it, and then we're going to go ahead and hose it down with the cleaner. So all I do at that point is hose it down everything real good with the cleaner, and I let it soak for about 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how bad or dirty it is. But just hose down everything, and this stuff's been working really good. It's amazing. It just completely dissolves all that grime and stuff off of there. And everything blasts off pretty good. But I'm going to hose this thing down. Wait a minute here, and I'll bring you guys back. All right, guys. Well, a few minutes have elapsed here. We're going to go and blast all the stuff off of here, and we'll go ahead and dry it off. Now, I just use an air compressor to dry mine off. Just blast everything out of around the ESC and the fans and all that good stuff, and get everything dried up. To head and hose it down then with some WD-40. And that's something else I've been hearing a lot about lately, is lubricants for cars and wheels and all that stuff. And everybody's saying, no, you shouldn't use WD-40. And I just don't understand that at all. Especially if you're getting them wet and you're washing them, and afterwards, WD-40 is a water displacement oil. It pushes water out of the areas. And I want that because I want to be able to displace the water out of the pillow balls, out of the bearings, out of all the drive shafts and all that stuff. Does it stick as well as some other lubricants? No, it is a little thinner, but normal everyday lubrication, that's all I use. And it keeps the water out of the places you don't want them. But I'm going to go ahead and finish hosing this thing off, and we'll get to drying it. All right, guys, well, she's all hosed down here. So what I do from here is just blast all the water out of mostly the important stuff, out of all the pillow balls. Sorry if that's really loud on camera, I don't know. Get everything cleaned out of the ESC and the motor area. Basically, just give it a good blast on with either an air compressor or a leaf blower or whatever you have, or just let it hang upside down to dry if you don't have either one. But after this, I hose down the stuff with WD-40, and I'll show you what I hit with that. All right, guys, so all the stuff that I hit after every time, basically hitting all the pillow balls, the drive shafts across all the A-arms, basically just give it a little quick spray across there. I also come down and hit the pinion and the spur gear a little bit, and then quickly just spin it to give some oil onto that gear so it doesn't rust and to help lube all that stuff up. Also, I hit the back drive shaft areas and all across all of the back A-arms and inside the rear drive shafts. And that's pretty much everything I spray with the WD. And I occasionally kind of hit on top here with the servo and all that stuff, just to kind of help keep stuff from rusting and freeze everything up a little bit. Hitting the A-arms with the WD-40 isn't a bad idea. It really doesn't cost anything. It is a penetrating oil, so it does kind of seep into the plastic and makes it slightly more flexible. And on these 6S cars, I have come to notice, I love the RPM A-arms on the 3S line and even the 4S line. But I'm noticing on the 6S, at least for me, that they're a little too flexible. And they twist and bend and popped out the hinge pins and other problems. So I am sticking with the stock A-arms on all the 6S cars. They seem to be plenty tough. I haven't had any of them break yet. So I'm just going to continue that way. But on the 3S line, I do like the RPM stuff. So just a little side note, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I had a few little repairs I got to do this thing. I blew the screw out of the rear sway bar yesterday at the BMX track. I didn't notice that till afterwards, but I got to fix that. But that's about it. So I'll bring you guys back in a second. One other thing, the other two things I do hit are the wheel nuts. Spray hit those with a little spray WD-40. You know, like I said, this stuff displaces water. So anywhere you're not wanting water to sit in and rust, it's a great thing to spray in there to kind of keep all that out of there. Also, one other thing I noticed not too long ago was this. And does everybody's car do this? When you turn the wheel in a servo, it actually produces enough voltage to turn your ESC fan. I had just noticed that not long ago. It's kind of cool. But I'm gonna fix this thing real quick, and I'll bring you guys back. One other thing I wanted to mention to make sure you guys always keep an eye on, and again, this might be obvious, but I'm just throwing it out there from experience and what I've dealt with. Make sure you keep an eye out on the shock tower bolts, the studs that hold your shocks on. These do tend to loosen up after some hard hits in a little bit of time, and if they start getting any play in there, they will shear off way easier. So make sure you just keep an eye on these things and make sure all these are tight on the front and rear. Just figured I'd add that in, guys. And one other thing, and this is probably obvious to many, but I just figured I'd throw it in there. After every major run and good bash session with this thing, I always go over every one of these screws on the bottom, especially everything that holds in like center braces, motor mounts, all that type of stuff. You got the larger 2.5 millimeter or the 2 millimeters, and everything that's on the bottom of there. So make sure you go over all those things every time, guys, and check those, make sure everything is nice and snug. But I think that is going to do it. I just figured I'd bring you guys along for the day while I was messing around with a few things. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's useful to somebody. But until next time, y'all, be safe, be careful. Peace out, everybody.